In this video, we're going to be solving basic rational, or not rational, radical equations. So in these cases, we're going to be dealing with equations that involve square roots. So this is one of the few instances where it is always required that you check that your solution makes sense. It's always a good idea to do that, but in this one, it's actually a required part of the problem because sometimes you'll end up with something we call an extraneous solution, and you will only know that by actually checking whether or not the solution makes sense. So let's look at a few examples. Here we have -4 plus the square root of w minus 13 is equal to 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and add 4 to both sides of this equation. Okay, so now we'll get that the square root of w minus 13 is equal to 8. All right, and now what we do is we're actually just going to square both sides of this equation. And what this does is it actually undoes the square root. If you have the square root of something and you square it, it will just simply undo the radical sign. So doing that will just give us w minus 13 is equal to 8 squared, or in this case, 64. So we can add 13 to both sides of the equation, and this is just going to give us that w is equal to 77. So it's very important now that we take this and make sure this is actually the case, okay? Let's do that. So we're going to check our answer, and we're going to have -4 plus the square root of, in this case, 77 minus 13, and that should be equal to 4 if everything works out. So this is equal to -4 plus the square root of 77 minus 13. That's the square root of 64. Okay. Or in this case, we have -4 plus 8 will be equal to 4. So our solution makes sense. So we know that w equals 77 is a valid solution for this equation. Okay, let's take a look at another one. All right, let's do the square root of x minus 9 and then minus 2 is equal to 6. Here, we can just add 2 to both sides. All right, and we'll get that the square root of x minus 9 is equal to 8. So again, we're going to go ahead and square both sides of the equation. And this is going to give us that x minus 9 is equal to 64. So now we can add 9 to both sides. And we'll get x is equal to 73. Now again, it's also very important that we check our solution. All right. So if x is equal to 73, we should have the square root of 73 minus 9 minus 2 should be equal to 6 if everything checks out. So we have the square root of 73 minus 9. That's going to be the square root of 64 minus 2, which is going to be 8 minus 2, which is going to be 6. So that checks out. So we know that x equals 73 is a valid solution. Okay, so now let's look at a time where maybe things might get a little bit hairy. Let's say we have the square root of y minus 8 plus 7 is equal to 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and take 7 away from both sides. So now we're going to end up with the square root of y minus 8 is equal to negative 2. All right, so let's go ahead and square both sides. And we'll get that y minus 8 is equal to 4, because negative 2 squared is 4. We can add 8 to both sides, and we'll get y is equal to 12. Okay? So let's check our answer here. So we have the square root of 12 minus 8 plus 7 should be equal to 5. Everything works out. So we actually have the square root of 4 plus 7, or 2 plus 7, which is 9. Well, 9 is not 5, so we actually know then that this is not a valid solution. Y equals 12 is not a valid solution. Okay, so in this situation, there is no solution to the given equation. Okay, this is why it's always really important to check. And you always want to do this anytime you have to square anything in an equation. If you have to square something, then you need to double check that your solution is actually going to make sense.